Namaste again by Pankajā. The lotus of Ayurveda is bliss and joy and the understanding and the really, really exploring of life in all its aspects. The good, the bad, the ugly, like we know this quote, and my master very in a joke quotes this statement because everybody knows this movie and so I also quote it because that's what it is. We have the good and the bad and the ugly, and we have things we like and we dislike, and we have things that we even suppress in ourselves, and we suppress seeing, we avoid, we deny seeing in others because it makes us trouble, and it triggers something deep in us, and we may not want to face it. So we want only the good and the joy, and I'm also speaking of bliss here so much, but um, bliss is just the overall component. It's like the sap of life, deep inside, no matter what happens on the outside, no matter what struggles there may be, but deep inside there is something. And if we can approach it, if we can connect to that level of life, there for sure we will experience bliss in any moment. And this doesn't mean that life is not having its difficulties and if its challenges, and it's sometimes really difficult and really sad, and sometimes we feel it's even beyond, we are able bearing it, being able to bear it because it feels so much on us, especially in these challenging times we're in right now in this year 2020. And so I don't want to underestimate any difficulty and struggle in anyone's life. I do experience them myself. We all do. And I acknowledge that. And still, and especially despite of all these struggles, it's good to remember that life is bliss, as my master says. Life is bliss in its deep source, and we can connect to that source. There is beautiful techniques, there is beautiful help, how, and if you're interested, stay with me, join with me, and we'll talk more about it. And where I come from, what I was lucky to study with my master, Dr. Lad, Dr. Vasant Lad, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and also in Pune, India. He is a real master of Ayurveda, and he teaches Ayurveda from the source. And if you're interested to really dive into it, then figure it out, and learn and study directly with him. As long as you have this opportunity to do, he gives webinars these days as we can't be in person with each other, but even on the webinars you will be in his presence, and that's such a blessing. I just want to share this recommendation from my heart. So what is this bliss we sometimes feel, and sometimes it feels so out of reach? What is this we all long for and crave for, and what we actually put in all our intentions, all our activities are actually meant to bring us in a state of happiness, of inner joy. So joy is even something different than happiness. Happiness is way more dependent on the moment, dependent on the substance. A nice coffee can make me happy, but does it bring deep joy? There is a difference. Chocolate makes us happy in the moment. Maybe even more, it triggers some of our biochemical lab deep inside, and so it will release serotonin, and so this, yes, will on a deep level release more happiness, joy molecules in our body, and how to say, diminish or diminish the stress hormones in our body, the fear hormones. And so this is a good thing momentarily, but also of course it has all its side effects like sugar increase, and then of course the addiction, and it also changes the acid alkaline balance in our body to have more of these substances. So what about being beyond those substances? And that doesn't mean that not once in a while we can still allow it to ourselves, but being beyond it means we are not totally dependent on it. We are not freaking out if we don't get it for a day or two or even longer, or if we are in a country where suddenly something is not available that we are used to, or right now we are in the maybe in the quarantine or in a lockdown, and for some reason we don't get this substance our body's so accustomed to, and it makes us feel so good, so suddenly it's not there. So what to do? So there is ways where we can approach deepest levels of joy and peace in ourselves without any substance. And there is this famous story, I think Krishna Das, the beautiful, amazing, loving chanter Krishna Das. I'm sure everybody knows him. I love his chantings. And when he shares stories about his master, then there is this story of him and Ram Das, and how they were also considering and very interesting in drug substances, because it opens the heart. So many people who are addicted to drugs, they have such a big heart, as Dr. Lat says. They are so sweet, loving, gentle beings, and they just want to experience this open heart all the time. And so that's what sometimes chemically a drug can give to you. It removes all the screens which are between you and another being, between you and the world, the beauty of the world. So all these barriers are suddenly broken down, and this can feel so amazing, but also overwhelming, because it's not approached naturally, but with a chemical substance. So this is maybe too sudden, too strong, and so that's why people can also really have damage in their nervous system from those experiences, or they can just be addicted to have it over and over again, and they need more and more substances to be in that experience, because it just feels so good for a moment to be with an open heart. So why are we not with an open heart all the time? Why and when did we close our heart? And this is often relating back to very deep in our childhood, or in even former life experiences, where an open heart was not always appreciated. And this is no way to blame any of our parents. Parents are, especially mine, are the best ever, and I send love to them and gratitude. All parents, they do the best they can in the very moment, and they can only give what they have in the very moment. And they give on also involuntarily whatever stresses they have, and they have not got rid of. They didn't have help to get rid of their stresses, which they carry from time immemorial. So Dr. Lat says that we carry stresses and we carry disease from 7 generations back. So our great 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 grandfathers had a diabetes, so we carry those genes in us. And this doesn't mean that we are forced to also experience the actual disease of diabetes, but it means that this attitude is there, that this imprint is there on our genes, in our DNA. And so if we know that, then we know that we have to be especially cautious on this level. And there is tools, and there is herbs, and there is practices and help how we can avoid for those genes to become active. And so similar, this is for all stresses that are imprinted in our system. This may be of experiences of violence, experience of abuse, especially also women often carry a long female tradition of suppressing their feelings and having to carry the whole burden, and even sometimes worse, violence in that. And so we all have that deep in our genes, and sometimes it comes up in times when we are more vulnerable, in times when we are maybe alone, or we suddenly have experienced some loss, or we experience some fear, like now in the world situation, there is so much fear all around us. So it may trigger very deep fears and stresses in ourselves, which sometimes we don't even know where exactly they belong, what they are related to. And the good thing is, we don't even need to know. So in the yoga, in the Ayurveda, we don't actually go back in a very conscious level like it is done in some other practices, and they may have their beauty and their value, but sometimes it is needed to go beyond the conscious level of details, of figuring out what happened, who said what, who did what to me. We can get stuck on that level and not really solve the problem, or even bring up the pain again, but without releasing it. So that's what I learned also with another of my master, Art Reed. Art Reed is a great shamanic teacher, and he gives seminars around the world. I took it in Berlin, and this is also another recommendation. If you really want to get rid of a lot of your baggage, and if you're ready and very courageous to face it and to not deny and sugarcoat your own experiences and your own stresses or your response to them, because that's the main important, is how you respond to whatever is happening in your life, and not so much what is happening, because this is often really karmic. You cannot change it. It will come for you to face it. But the free will is the part of how you act on it, how you not react but respond to it, which is a huge difference. So I started this story actually, how do I get back to how when a master was approached in ancient times in India, and then Western disciples come and they want to kind of get an answer to what about these substances, why not using those. They are helping to open our heart and to widen our consciousness, because that's what we want in the yoga, is to see the whole life without all these screens of stresses, the screens of our ego perspective, which is a very colored perception of life and not a full perception of life. So that's what all beings, or most beings, they are craving, they are desiring to be in that full perspective of life, in that interaction without fear, without borders between us, without having this shell around us to protect us, which is sometimes needed, but sometimes good to also experience you can go beyond it, and actually we are one. That's what it is. Say the yoga is a union, and this is not a statement or just a word or a quote. Can be a real experience. And people, when we experience that, sometimes we just break out into tears of joy, to feel that it is possible to be so much without barriers and without fear, and just allowing a real, true, honest, innocent, full interaction with each other. And imagine a world where we can do more of that. And this is a huge benefit of yoga, practicing yoga, Ayurveda, and listening to the masters and following those who already went this path, and understanding that we are beginners, we are beginner level. Like the Buddha says, beginner's mind. Even the Buddha himself, he says that after realizing, after his enlightenment, he says, have a beginner's mind, which means a child mind, which means a disciple's mind. It means being very aware that there is others who know way more than you. And this is not meant to make you small or feel small. You are amazing. Everybody is amazing being God has created. But we have this level of experience where we are, this level of incarnations we already went through. And then there is others. They already had other incarnations, other experiences, deeper experiences. And so they walk the path in front of us, and they point us. There's this famous book, Pointers, by Nisargadatta Maharaj, one of my favorites. He's so crystal clear. And he just points, the master points to the goal. He's not carrying you there. He's not putting you in his backpack and carrying you there. Nobody can carry us, but he can point, and he points towards the light, from the darkness to the light. Guru, that's what guru means. A guru, a teacher, carries from the darkness to the light. And guru also means heavy, heaviness. In a good sense, he can ground you, he can anchor you while you're walking your path. He's just there and accompanying you and guiding you. And he points to your inner guidance. That's what the true guru does. He will never try to make you dependent on him. He will be happy when you move on. He will guide you through your inner Satguru. And both are needed, the outer guru and the inner guru, and they are pointing towards each other, and both have their value, and you're very lucky to meet both of them, and they are always there. Just look to them, and they are there. Like a famous astrologer always, he says, God is always there. Just look to him and you will find him. So I was just remembering this beautiful quote. It's from Babaji. He has this channel, Exotic Astrology, very, very helpful also in these challenging times to listen to what is going on in the planetary level. So what happened when this master was approached by the disciples with all these drugs and asked for his advice, and also it was a little, maybe a kind of a provocation also of Western-minded people to say, like, we have something more valuable than all your meditation and practice you are doing. It's easier, you just swallow this. And so the interesting thing is that this master, of course, he was able to give those disciples a lesson, and he just swallowed all they brought to him at once. So a normal being would just have died from these amounts of severe heavy drugs he was swallowing, and he was just showing them that he was beyond it. And this is of course a very interesting simile, and in no way encouraged to take drugs, not a small amount, not a big amount, and would never encourage any of these experiences. I just wanted to share this story because it was very eye-opening for many readers and many listeners, that the guru just swallowed the drugs and actually laughing out loud, and that he is in a state which we try to achieve with so many substances, with so many stresses, with even work, who can bring us in a very enthusiastic level, or sex, or being connected always, all the time, dependencies. So many ways we try to be in a state, in a level of deep joy and fulfillment. But the guru, the master, the one who practices the ancient Vedic techniques, he is in that state without any substances. And maybe in the beginning, if we just start meditating, we experience just glimpses of that. And then with the time, these glimpses widen and will be longer in our daily life. And then with the time, even when stressful situation comes up, even you have a stressful conversation, deep in the background, you will still experience this deep silence, which is joy, which is bliss, which is there in the yoga, when we have the proper guidance and masters to guide us, and when we follow it and we do our practice and we go beyond our ego, which may think we don't need it, what is all this good for, this is just blah blah blah. I totally understand if that's what you're feeling, some people feeling. I was feeling that long time of my life. I did not practice all of my life. I had just a turning point where something switched in me, and I understood that there must be something more than the superficial life I was living those days. And so I'm so grateful I had friends and teachers guiding me, and through all my ups and downs I'm going today, and still I never want to miss my practice. I never want to miss my yoga, my chanting, my meditation, the mantras. And I want to share some of this here with you in this channel. And whatever you're interested in, whatever resonates with your heart, take it and explore more, or ask back, or inquire, find a proper source, and find a practice that works for you, and start small. Don't start with a huge plan for hours and hours of a sadhana, which nobody can fulfill in an active life where you have so many other responsibilities and work and family and whatever in your work you need to fulfill. So just start small, just start with a small practice, but small and steady. Be steady with that. And if that's, for example, just a moment in the morning where you light a candle, when you wake up, you brush your teeth, you rinse your mouth, you scrape your tongue, also in the Ayurveda, we'll talk more about that. And then after you took your shower, and this shower can be short, it doesn't have to be, a really long procedure. Just have this shower every morning to be fresh, alive, awake. And after that, just have a moment of silence before you start with whatever you need to do, and light a candle at a nice place in your apartment. And if you like incense, light some incense. This can be a beautiful start. It just takes 2 minutes. Stand there, look at the light for a moment, enjoy the silence of the morning before everything starts, before you have to prepare breakfast, wake up the children, whatever there is in your life. Have this very short moment of silence. That's a beautiful start. So for today, I will just sing the Gajananam once again, because I don't know if in the former videos it worked out. We had some video problems today due to Mercury retrograde in the planets, I guess. I don't blame it on Mercury. I love Mercury, and if he's retrograde, he may remind us to slow down a little more, or maybe to repeat something. And so now I will repeat, and I will sing the Gajananam shloka to remove all obstacles in everybody's life, and to bring joy and bliss and health and trust and faith in this time of challenges to all of you, to all of us. And Jai Gurudev. Gajananam Bhuta Ganati Sevitam Kapita Jambu Palasara Bhakshitam Umasutam Shoka Vinasha Karanam Namami Vigneshwara Parapankajam. Hari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Stay in touch. We are in touch. Namaste. Thank you for joining. I love you all. Bye.